Your little bitch voice is the voice inside of you that says, choose the easier path. You don't have to do that. You can do that later. You don't need to walk through hard things. Pursue comfort. You don't need to speak truth. You can just stuff it. But as you and I know, the life that most people want is on the other side of doing very hard things. And so if it keeps you from doing very hard things, then it technically keeps you from living the life that you truly want to live.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I'm making look easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Take that back. I hope boys and girls are not listening to this. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Best Damn Agency Podcast. You know, this is your place for all things unscripted, unfiltered, no bullshit. The conversations about agency stuff, including sales. I'm going to write it down one day because I just keep forgetting what the stuff to say there is. But welcome back. I am your host, JJ Russell, and Joey Gilkey, my business partner and partner on this podcast, is joining me as always. You got some coffee in that cup, Joey? What's up, man?
I do. Straight black coffee.
Do you know what realization I just had?
I have a really cool eagle on my shelf behind me.
That is the second thing that I was going to say. The first is that for the longest time, I've been telling people, pour up a glass, drink with us, come hang out, stuff like that. And I realized that we, one, release the episodes at 8 a.m. on Fridays, and two, most people, like our most listened to time is like 9 o'clock on Friday mornings. So basically, I'm breeding a bunch of degenerate day drinkers who are boozing up at work.
There's nothing wrong with that. You just have more time in the day to burn off the calories.
Yeah, it's true. Whatever happened to your black V-neck subscription?
Oh, I got rid of that a while ago. V-necks kind of went out for me, and then I moved more towards the black Built, B-Y-L-T brand t-shirts. Yeah, now I'm not sure. I'm feeling a little itchy to move on to something else, maybe a little more classy. I don't know. I might go into a little bit more classy. You mean
you're itching? You're itching to move into something else.
Sure. Yes. Not itchy. Like
dude, Roback, the company that made our Mastermind hoodies, they make dope collared shirts that are like dry wick material.
Oh, really? I don't like short sleeve collared shirts unless I'm golfing.
Why?
Because I'm not 48 years old.
Is that a thing?
Or in a fraternity. Yeah, it is a thing.
Oh, well, I'm repping a sweatshirt sent by good friend and Mastermind member Chris Uzo of Zero Gravity Marketing.
Uzo.
I keep saying it wrong. I'm sorry, Chris. We've actually already been through this. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's the softest sweatshirt I've ever worn. I don't know if I would choose this color. Like if I was just shopping hoodies at a store, the blues.
I've never seen you in that color.
I'm more of like a neutral, a black.
You're a black, gray, white guy. That's what I am most of the time.
But this sweatshirt far and above more comfortable than anything I've ever put in my closet. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
You know what I have more opinions on fashion-wise than anything?
Hoodies.
Combat
jackets.
boots.
Oh, really?
I mean, I was wearing them for our workout last.
Yeah.
When we did our team workout on the farm.
Dude, I did not know that Under Armour made combat boots until you showed them.
Dude, they're so comfortable. You can run in them. They're waterproof. They're comfortable. You can lift in them. They're basically the all-around utility shoe vehicle.
Which is interesting. I'm facing a dilemma. So we talked about the 50-hour ruck event that I am likely pursuing in early spring. They recommend that you wear like military issued boots.
Yes.
But I hate boots. I hate them. I hate all boots.
You would like mine.
I'm thinking about wearing tennis shoes and just being that guy. So
go for it. Hope you don't get what's the foot
gout.
Disease you get? No, not gout. What's the foot disease that people would get, like trench foot? From like back in the war times.
Or you like cut toes off and stuff like Deion Sanders.
Yep, exactly.
Did you know that Deion Sanders only has 8 toes?
I think I did know that. but now that you say it, maybe I didn't.
He's got, for somebody that's like a hyper fit athlete who's still got it, the dude's got terrible circulation, which doesn't make sense, and they had to cut his toes and potentially his entire foot off. That's what's in the news, is he might lose.
Oh, like even now, it's still a problem.
This is happening as we speak. Big news. Also,
wow, poor guy.
Colorado is leaving the Pac-12. Don't know if you saw that. That's crazy too.
Where are they going to go?
The Big 12.
That makes sense.
The Pac-12, because it's California, is going to burn to the ground. Sorry.
Yes, everything in California will burn to the ground except for its beauty.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. All right, I'm going to solicit your help here to start off this episode.
Okay. Wonderful.
You coined the term "your little bitch voice." Tell the people at home. Oh, you didn't? Nobody else? I've not heard it anywhere else. Are you sure?
I'm sure I've heard it, or a variation of it somewhere, but I will take credit for now until we find a better source.
So tell the people at home, the good people, what that voice is, what it has to say, when it shows its ugly head.
Yeah, it shows up every day. Every hard decision you have to make, it will make an appearance. Your little bitch voice is the voice inside of you that says, choose the easier path. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do that. You can do that later. You don't need to walk through hard things. Pursue comfort. You don't need to make amends and do hard things. You don't need to speak truth. You can just stuff it. You can do all the things that make you pursue a life of ease. The challenging thing is that little bitch voice you think might be your friend because like, hey, go to the easy path. I want your life to be easy. But as you and I know, the life that most people want is on the other side of doing very hard things. And so if it keeps you from doing very hard things, then it technically keeps you from living the life that you truly want to live.
Yep.
So it's that little small voice. Sometimes it's very big in most of this world nowadays. The less credence we give to it and the less we actually respond to it and give it power, the less it shows up or the smaller the voice is. But the more you actually let it fester, the more you respond to it and give it the airspace in your head, the louder that voice gets and the harder it is to say no to it.
Yeah, I said I was going to solicit your help. I will do that. Before I do, I am a part of a peer-led men's fitness group. We meet in the mornings. Whenever I lead the workouts, my goal is to make them as just terrible as humanly possible, both for myself and everyone else going through it. And so I led yesterday. And do you remember playing ball in college when Coach Taylor put us through the workout that he called like the 7 layers of hell, but it ended up, he renamed it to Hell and Back. So basically like he put you through the circuit and we were there for 45 minutes and it was high intensity. We were drenched.
Oh, it was all stations.
Puking. Yep. And you got all the way through.
It was the worst.
And he's like, all right, motherfuckers, you're in hell, but now we've got to go back. And you had to reverse it and run it all the way back out. Oh, dude. So that's essentially,
I remember like hyperventilating.
It was awful. That's what I did. That's what we did.
Wow. Did you call it to Hell and Back?
Yeah, I did.
There you go. Trademark Coach Matt Taylor.
Yeah, man. I think he's probably doing cool stuff. Selling cars or, I don't know, in jail.
Or
maybe.
Lifting heavy weights. No. No chance.
If anybody is in jail right now, it's Coach Groney. He scared me.
Yeah, he was a terrifying individual.
So here's the help that I need. I am subtle flex. I am 8,800 push-ups into a 10,000 push-up challenge, and I've got
30 days, right?
Yep, I've got 4 more days to complete 1,200 push-ups. It basically breaks down to like 350 push-ups a day. But my arms and my chest are broken. They're just destroyed. Like.
Are they just done?
Yeah, they're done. They're quitting. Like now I'm going down to do push-ups and I get to 10 and they're like, yeah, I don't do anymore. So my little bitch voice is very loud. It's present basically every 30 minutes when I get down to do my next set of push-ups. I don't know how do I power through, Joey? What do I do here?
Well, I think that you can realize that if you give up, you'll have given up 88% of the way through a very difficult challenge that most men and women will not ever even attempt. If you can't do a 10,000 push-up challenge, you're not going to get through your misogi because your little bitch voice is going to be cultivated.
That was good.
If you can't do it, you're going to have to bitch out on your misogi. And I know you don't want to do that.
That was it. That was the motivation that I needed.
Yes.
I had that thought today. So it's great that you just said this because we're on our backs at the workout somebody else is leading, doing flutter kicks with a cinder block over our heads. And we're like 60 seconds in. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is terrible. I should probably take a break. And then I'm thinking about my buddies who've done this 50-hour event who've said that they had to do that for 30 minutes straight and 12 people quit. I'm like, I need to get stronger and mentally harder. So this is good to map the push-ups back. So
it's so interesting because you have to develop it in multiple areas of your life. Like I have it in business, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yep.
I have it in like my convictions about how I raise our family and all that kind of stuff. I think that I lack it in like diet and exercise. Lack it meaning I have the little bitch voice that I succumb to more than I would like to admit.
So we're all working on it, man. You just got, I think too, putting yourself around people that are fighting against that. And then being willing to like have those honest conversations. So literally what happened is we got all the way through the first round of the workout I was leading. So we got to hell and I pressed pause. I turned the music off. We're in a tennis court. The humidity is just stupid. And I stepped out there and I was like, to every one of you that wants to quit, that wants to cut reps, that wants to count down the minutes until we're done. I said it. I was like, your little bitch voice is telling you to stop right now. And I'm not going to let you. And we're like, it was good. And then we all powered through and it was cool. So,
that's
all
awesome.
right. I appreciate you giving me the push that I needed. Let's turn the direction here a little bit. When we were in the car together recently, you asked the question, because we were having some political conversation, which we often do here on this podcast. And you said, I've started to wonder if talking about politics is just a sign of somebody with low IQ. So what did you mean? Is that actually something that you believe? And why is that a premise that you would even entertain?
Yeah, I think it's the answer is no. I don't actually believe it. But what I do believe is there's a truth in there, which is I think low IQ. What I mean by that is like you're not thinking about the full picture. You don't think about it holistically. I think that thinking that your vote for a president is going to change the state of the world. Or the U.S. I think that is low IQ. Fighting over who we think should be president or not, I think I'm starting to realize like it doesn't freaking matter, right? It doesn't matter. Now caring about the hard thing is like we have politics, which is like who are your politicians and things like that. And then you have issues, and I think that caring about your politicians is low IQ thoughts, and I think that caring about issues is not. And so that's where I would differentiate. And so I've started to care less about the argument on this politician's good or bad. This one should be or should not be in office, whatever. I think it's more about I have thoughtful observations about issues, and I think that's okay to have discussion and discourse about.
Yeah, I think the majority of it, though, it's just like a shouting match of people who will actually not ever change anything, and they don't have anything better to do with their life and time.
I think getting emotional about it is a low IQ indicator.
I agree. That's actually that's a good nuance. I like that.
Yep. Yeah, I think the emotions that kind of get behind, like it's what has created the MAGA crowd. It is what has created the progressive anti-Trump crowd. That's like never Trump. Like whatever creates those cults or those groups, whether you are pro any other candidate or not, it's like when you start to subscribe to or never subscribe to a politician or a leader of some sort, I think you start to lose efficacy, if you will, in like your thinking. And I think you start to lose credibility a little bit because I think that you're just so emotional that you're willing to be blinded. Like I think that most of the MAGA crew, although I voted for Trump, once. I think that most of the MAGA crew is retarded for just being so blinded that they think that everything's a conspiracy, and they think that, which I believe there are a lot of conspiracies, and they think that Trump is like an angel. I don't think that's true either. And so I think there's the crowd that does. And then also the people who are like anti-Trump, they think everything he does, no matter what he does, is wrong. And even when they are like the obvious stuff around Joe Biden, the Biden family, Hunter Biden, all the corruption that is in the Biden family, when you bring it up, it's like, yeah, but Trump. When your answer is, yeah, but Trump, and you can't look at a situation critically and take Trump out of it, then you're no better than a MAGA loyalist that can't see anything wrong.
So sitting above all of that, we've talked about these groups of people, whether they are in alliance or not, who have power and they have their own interests, and they are moving chess pieces around, and they are manipulating you. They're manipulating the markets. They're manipulating businesses. They're involved in things that are going on. You just said that like your convictions, your beliefs about issues. We even talked a little bit earlier in this episode about like your commitment to personal excellence and defying the little bitch voice. Like those are the things that you can control that are important. And so Andy Frischella on his podcast talks about personal excellence being the ultimate rebellion against the powers that be. I think the answer is yes, but like I'd actually love to hear you unpack that a little bit. Do you agree with that? And how does that live out for you?
I think so. I think that personal excellence creates personal freedom. And personal freedom is not tied to any government or higher power, et cetera. I think that a lot of the problem with our world is people have succumbed to some larger entity controlling their lives. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you pursue personal excellence, it is very challenging to sit there and think that a very imperfect government is better for you and your family than you are for you and your family. So I actually would agree with that. I've never heard him say that. But I think there is an aspect of like this pursuit of personal optimization. One, it gives you personal freedom, but two, it also, when you pursue excellence, you start to remove yourself from the lemmings. The lemming, you know what a lemming is? No. A lemming is this bird. It's this bird species that essentially they will literally fall. If one lemming jumps off of a cliff, the rest will jump with it. Right? They just do. They just kind of mindlessly follow whoever is in charge or in front of them. And it's kind of how I see a lot of the world. Is like they will just mindlessly follow because they aren't pursuing an elevated level of themselves that can lead themselves. They because they've not pursued personal excellence, they have allowed themselves to hook their train to become a lemming.
That's good. I like that. All right, we're going to get into a game. I don't have a great name for it. I thought about this or that. I'm going to make you choose one side or the other or pick between two things, but some of them have more than two things, so I just don't have a great name. But we're going to get into that. Before we do, really quick, if you're a longtime listener, you already know. If you're new to the podcast, let me tell you, we run two companies. One, Apex Revenue, fractional sales leadership. We build your sales ops, help lead, manage, train your sales team, help you break into new markets. Pretty badass. But we also run the best damn agency Mastermind, the most elite community for 7- and 8-figure digital agency CEOs who have a dogmatic pursuit of excellence, who want to improve themselves, who want to be the best leader they could possibly be inside of their business, but also inside of their home, inside of their community. They want to maximize their legacy. It's small. We are not the community for everybody. We're not trying to get to 200 members. We are trying to be 30, 45 people who are committed to rising the tides of all ships within that community. And we would love for you, if you think that you could be one of those people, to reach out to us, schedule a time to follow up and figure out if the community is a good fit for you. So check us out, bestdamnmastermind.com, or if you want to come give it a test drive, we will be in Palm Springs on a retreat, and we're going to have a few guest spots. We've got half of them taken, November 7th through 10th. So if you want to come check us out in Palm Springs, same website, bestdamnmastermind.com/retreats, and you'll get in contact with our team. So boom. That is that. All right, Joey, this or that, / this, that, or the other. I don't know. There's options here. Pick one. Pick one. All right. So I'm going to make you pick a market to sell to, and I'm going to give you 3 options. And 3 of our clients, actually, so it's kind of interesting. So what I'm saying is you have to go cold to this market. You have to break into this market with your sales team. You have to pick one and then tell me why. So
can I be as creative as possible, or is the goal just to how I would, like a generic thing?
You have complete liberty to be yourself in the way that you answer this question. All right.
Awesome.
Your 3 options: industrial manufacturing, restaurants, but they're corporate location. Think like 20 plus retail locations, right? So corporate headquarters. Healthcare providers. Think regional hospitals, clinics, probably more than like 10 locations. All right. So industrial manufacturing, restaurants of 20 or more locations, or healthcare providers with 10 or more locations.
Industrial manufacturing. Easy decision. I'll tell you why I choose that over others.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I didn't choose. So restaurants, because I do think it's a little bit more challenging. They're not as internet present. Okay. If you're selling to corporations, restaurants are not the most sophisticated of organizations, which means the people they hire are not the most sophisticated, even if they're in a VP role or of some sort. And so they tend to not make the most wise decisions. So I don't typically want to try to convince people that are harder to convince. Doesn't mean that I won't sell to them. Doesn't mean I can't work with them. It doesn't mean that we don't have clients that do. It just means that if I'm having to choose, that's why I wouldn't choose that one over manufacturing. The other one is healthcare systems. Mm-hmm. It just depends, right? Because healthcare is a large encompassing market. There's medical practices, there's specialists, there's insurance paid, non-insurance paid. There's healthcare systems like hospitals and such like that. That's challenging because there's a lot of compliance. There's a lot of if you're going to medical practices, there's doctors who are practicing physicians that also own the company, but they're practicing most of the day, so they're hard to get a hold of. So also they hire office managers to tend to the phones, and the office managers know nothing about business. And so it's challenging to make a business case to an office manager and have them relay it to a doctor. And so that would be one. Hospital systems. I'm more interested in hospital systems than I would be medical practices.
Okay.
But hospital systems, I think they have very sophisticated buyers. I think that depending on the size of hospital system, I think they have a lot of bureaucracy, unfortunately, a lot of red tape. Sure. And so that's why I would not. Now, why I picked industrial manufacturing is one, they are fairly insulated in a lot of ways from economic downturns. Not always. Supply chain issues, things like that will cause issues there, but they're fairly insulated. Secondly, it's just being realistic, it's a hyper male dominated industry, and I know how to speak to men because I am a man more than I know how to speak to women, which healthcare would have a lot of. Third, I think that they operate in a very dinosaur, prehistoric type of way for a lot of more innovative, modern types of marketing and sales, which is what I would assume I'm selling to these people. Yeah. And so I could potentially, it's a pro and a con. I could potentially introduce something new, but also it's something new to a prehistoric industry, and they're maybe not as interested in changing because it's a family-owned company for 40 years kind of thing. They're a lot more accessible. So industrial manufacturing companies would be a lot easier, right? Because it is a business person making a business decision as opposed to it's a doctor making a business decision or it's a food expert making a business decision. So accessibility, and I think that they can be fairly sizable companies with fairly sizable problems, which comes with the higher ticket ability to sell into.
The amount of thorough thought and complexity of that answer is pretty awesome. There's not a lot of people who asked that question would have that much to immediately say off the cuff. That's great.
Unconscious competence.
It's great. I love it. All right, your next one. So you got 3 options again. You have to pick one outbound cold channel to go all in on: phone, email, or social, and you cannot do the other 2.
The others.
You're committed to one only.
Who am I going? Give me one industry to target.
Industrial manufacturing.
That's my answer. Phone.
Okay, why?
Because it's They all have phones. They oftentimes have direct lines. They oftentimes have extensions that can get directly to their desk. They're not super guarded by gatekeepers. They have their mobile phones online quite a bit. And because if I build my team in a certain way, because they tend to be a more conservative crowd, there's more testosterone running through the manufacturing industry. If I can display a similarity or likeness to them on the phone, then I'm far more likely to portray my message and have my message received than over an email, which they're probably really tired of emails.
Let me flip that question then. So what industry could I have said that would have led you to go email?
Medical practices.
Okay. And then any that
Doctors.
would have you have picked social only? It's the hardest to scale.
Yeah, it's hard because LinkedIn has their governor on your ability to do outreach. Yeah. I would say if I was selling something that's multiple six figures to a more enterprise crowd and I'm doing account-based sales, I would probably choose LinkedIn.
Okay.
Because I can create a really cool strategy around connecting with 40 people, asking questions a bunch of each of them. But again, the ticket price has to justify it.
It's good. All right, last one. I got to figure out where I'm at. All right, this one only has. I'll go 3, but initially I had 2 options. Let me think of the third. You are going to be in this hypothetical scenario. You're stepping in to take over as the VP of sales for a company, and that company is either going to be a small sub $2 million founder-led company, a $10 million company with, let's say, a 4-person sales team, or more of like an enterprise level, maybe not quite enterprise, but think like 100-person sales team, probably $100 million. Which, unless your pay is the same, so I'll say that. Which opportunity are you most excited about, and do you think you'll have the most success at?
10 million.
Okay.
By far and away. If I'm getting paid the same, right?
Yep.
I'll give you my answers for the others, just like I did the other one. I wouldn't pick 2 million under because the budget's not very good. We have to thread the needle. There's no room for exploration and testing. The budget is fairly non-existent. And so I can't do a whole lot with that. Enterprise, big budget, a lot of bureaucracy, probably not a ton of flexibility. The only pros to that is because there's so much data from having so many sales reps, I know I can come in and create a massive lift pretty quickly. Not as exciting, kind of boring, and again, red tape to jump through to get a decision done or run some tests or whatever. And so therefore it leaves me with a $10 million company, which has a smaller sales team that I can still optimize good. I can fire bad. I can replace because they're already paying the money for someone. And they have enough budget at 10 million to run a few tests, be okay, being a little bit more exploratory in what's going to work. And the founder is not in sales anymore, which was another downside to the $2 million company. Yeah. Because you're not creating process, and it's not realistic for a scalable sales operation to base it off of the founder.
Cool. That's great. You won the game. Congratulations.
Yeah, what do I get?
You get the same prize I do. Nothing.
I get a LinkedIn clip.
Nothing and liked it. Yeah, that's right. Okay. We've talked a lot the last few weeks, last few episodes about what we're doing with the phone. And I want to take a small piece of that and I want to make it actionable for people who maybe aren't leveraging it the same way we are, don't have access to the same tech back-end processes. So if assuming they are using the phone or would want to use the phone, I want to talk about different call outcomes / statuses that you have of target prospects. So you've got the booked meetings, and then underneath that, what are all of the other outcomes that have some kind of positive notation tagged to them?
You talking about the phone only?
Yeah. Sorry, and I can actually. So let me. I'm doing a lot of these projects right now, so I'll tell you more specifically what I'm talking about. So you've got booked meetings, you've got activated leads. And I'm going to let you dig into these because I don't. These.
You've got completions, you've got connections.
Well, but you actually have, at least in the way that we're documenting it, you've got leads that are marked for nurture, you've got leads that refer you, and you've got leads that are not me, not now, not the right person kind of thing. Yeah. So talk through each of those designations, probably the ones that are less common sense. Like not
I'll go
me,
top
not
to
now.
bottom, and then I'll explain each.
Great.
Dials, total dials.
Yep.
Connections, how many of those dials did you connect with the actual individual that you intended to get a hold of? Completions, which is how many of the people that answered did you essentially bucket into one of those categories? You got through your messaging, you got through your script, and you bucket them into no, not interested, no, not right now, not me, referred to someone else, yes, interested but not ready for a call type of thing, or yes, I'm ready for a call, right? And then, so that's completions. The next layer down is activations. So activations are folks who are kind of that, yes, interested, yes, in the market, yes, it's a problem. Not me, but this is the person who makes the decision, referred to, hey, you should talk to John. But it's not a booked call. Think of that like an MQL, right? Yeah. It's kind of like in between an MQL and an SQL. But a marketing qualified lead, if you will. It's no different than an opt-in, through an ad or whatever, in my opinion. And then you have booked, which is people that we got on the calendar. So dials are dials. Connections, you always want to monitor your connection rate, right? How many people do I actually get on the phone, right? Because if you're calling on the same list and that connection rate is drastically dropped, right? So again, same list, but drastically dropped. It likely means that you've probably burned a number or burned the numbers that you've been using. And so you need to fix that problem. Completions are how well are we getting to the right person with the messaging and getting them into a bucket that we talked about. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes some might call that like a soft pitch or whatever, right? It's not a first time appointment, but we're getting to the heart of their problems and we're talking about our solution in some way, shape, or form and moving them towards activation or booked. Activated, we treat them like an MQL. And so those are just as important to me as booked calls. It used to be more about the booked call game, but now I'm realizing some of the best opportunities require nurturing. And so the MQL will be people who we need to nurture. Right, so those are folks who they displayed some level of interest. They displayed some level of they related to the problem that we talked about, and we can do some substantial follow up with them on different channels, even right. Like maybe the phone just wasn't the best place to convert them, but it is their problem, and they're not ready to convert, and so therefore let's try email with them next, or social, and so on, or we just call them back. And then booked is obviously booked, and so you want to optimize for all of those if possible. The better your messaging gets, the better the activation rate gets, the better the book calls gets, and so on. And so it really comes down to messaging on how to
And you put your account executive in charge of following up on activated leads?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of case by case, right? But I would say predominantly 80% of those activated should go to an account executive to follow up on. Right, it would be no different than. I was gonna say it'd be no different than somebody who, filled out a high value guide that you had on your website, and they opted into that. It's like, should an SDR reach out to that person, or should the person who's far more likely to get the conversion on the back end of that because they can talk the talk and walk the walk, reach out to that person? I personally think that it's a better use of time and money if the account executive does that.
Yeah, you just mentioned stepping away from just looking at booked calls and really digging into activated accounts. And I think it really, as you and I have sat down and talked about it, as I've watched you work through the numbers, it changes the math of the phone game. Like if you're just looking at ROI in terms of book calls and kind of leveraging that math to figure out what sort of revenue that's generating in terms of won deals, it's not just about booked calls, though, from that initial cold call outreach. It's about what all is this effort going to generate downline, and a lot of it's going to come from those activated leads.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think just focusing on going back to the politics question, I think that just focusing on booked calls is low IQ sales. That I have fallen prey to before, right? I think it's lazy sales. I think I'm only looking for the 3% or small percentage of my market that's ready to have that conversation today. Instead of, and Ryan he stole this from someone and he gives them the credit, but I don't know who that person is. I don't know their name. But he talks about the fat stacks are in the circle backs. And so it really comes down to like the follow-up game is where a lot of the gold is. And so, and the reason it's important is because everyone's fighting for the buying market, right? Those who are willing to vet something now and have that call now, like people might be doing that through Google, their own research, through ads, through social, through other people, cold outreaching to them. But the persuadable market, people are not working nearly as hard to get to that market. And the MQLs or the activated is that persuadable market. And so if we can get opportunities from that portion of the market that's not ready right this second, or how we said it wasn't the right way or whatever, but the problem's there and we can solve it, then we are opening up ourselves up to a market that's relatively untapped compared to what everyone else is working with. Everyone else is working off of intent data, which is I raise my hand because of activities I've been doing to solve this problem, whereas we're creating a whole different channel of intent when we activate someone.
What I love about
you can
that
go to
is
Zoom Info. I was gonna say you can go to Zoom Info or Apollo, and you can like filter by intent signals, right? That will not capture our activated type of intent. And so you're literally creating your own stream of intent leads by activating accounts that are probably not being reached.
Yeah, and there's no other way to get into them, right? We talked about this earlier. The email is not going to get you there. You're not going to get the feedback that you need to know who's actually persuadable into that section.
Because they're not forced to respond.
So if you're listening, so what's the next steps? I mean, they're pretty simple, right? It's like start marking these other call dispositions and then build out a plan to follow up with not just people you book with, but people that you activate, and you need to have a designation for
100%.
that.
100%.
Cool. I love it. All right. We got a few people in the mastermind, friends of ours who are just trying to get creative and think through some of their own sales campaigns and strategies. And so I have a few questions based off of some of the conversations that's going on right there in there right now. One is, and this is a very specific question, does lumpy mail still work?
I haven't tested it lately.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like, I don't have like recent data on this, but using my experience and intuition and past data, yeah, 100%. It works actually very well. I've actually thought about, talking about channel development, I've thought about, and I probably will do it if I need to do it, I have a phone team. I have an email system that we run. Account executives and VPs will run social. And I would like to have I'll call it just a giftology department. And I'll throw lumpy mail into giftology. And so does it work? The only reason it would not work these days is if you cannot get a hold of, from an address perspective, the person. And people are making that argument these days, and it very well could be valid, and I don't have the data to support one way or the other, but my intuition tells me that you have to send mail to company addresses anyways.
Yep.
Right? Like, I get mail to a company address, whether that company address is my home or it's a P.O. box or it's an office. Mail has to get somewhere at some point, and that mail then has to be pushed to the person who there's attention there. So long as your lumpy mail makes it evident and obvious that this mail needs to be received by John Smith, the CEO of XYZ company, then it's probably going to get to him. It just may not get to him as easily as it did before.
What else would you be thinking for? Because obviously, like, you want your lumpy mail to be a part of a more comprehensive campaign that has strategy behind it. What else needs to be there for the lumpy mail to actually convert or for the follow-up to be effective? What other channels are you going to use?
Yeah. Well, I think that in the lumpy mail, you can make the call to action obvious. But second, I think that people need a nudge afterwards.
Okay.
Right? Because it might be cool, it might be memorable, it might be whatever. But like in that very moment when they're checking their mail, they may not open up their email and shoot you an email or call the cell phone that you put alongside of it or whatever. And so I have found success using self-deprecation before, where it's like, hey, John, I'm the weird guy who sent you the XYZ, right? I'm the weird guy who did the dinosaur approach of writing a handwritten letter. I'm the weird guy who sent you the Notre Dame signed helmet, whatever, right?
Yep.
You kind of use self-deprecation and like, hey, I'm that guy. And you will elicit a response probably north of 50% of the time. If it's giftology, you're probably looking at like way north of 50%. If it's more lumpy mail, you're probably still getting a pretty high conversion on that. I don't know the exact number anymore. I can't recall what it used to be. But there's a ton of value there.
We've got another guy in the group that's what he's running into in sales conversations is, hey, my current agency's terrible, right? So his competitors, while it's opened the door for him, it's also muddied the water in that the buyer's experience has been jaded because of poor performance. And so we had somebody say, yeah, I've run a campaign where I've sent t-shirts that just say better than your marketing agency or whatever. And then there's a campaign in there. Have you ever seen campaigns crafted around the idea that like current people in the market are struggling or kind of sucking at delivering results, or no?
I mean, I have run test campaigns myself around like firing yourself from sales because you're not good at it kind of thing. But no, actually, I haven't heard any lumpy mail type of campaign like that where it's
I liked it
targeted. Yeah, no, it's a clever way of you're not going directly at a competitor. You're just going after competition in general because you know the space. Like I think Chris could do that at rankings really well.
Yeah.
Like he could probably compile a list of personal injury attorneys. He's got all the case studies. He can even show before and after case studies of other well-known PI agencies that he took from that particular agency and they got XYZ result. Like he could definitely show that off a little bit. Critical campaign.
I've got to get myself packed. I got to get my family to vacation. We're going to Florida so that we can be there in the 6,000 degree heat. It's nature sauna. We will be just east of Destin in like old Florida, Miramar Beach area. So.
Oh, cool. Nice. That'll be fun.
But I've got one question. We're driving. I got one question left for you though. So, and it's pertinent to the podcast. So as we're wrapping up this episode of the podcast, when we were sitting around a few weeks ago, at the time of this airing in Knoxville, I basically said, hey, you've got $1 million to start whatever business you want, but it can't be the one you're currently running. It's got to be something totally different. What would you do? And you said, I would start a legit like personal brand / media company.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about that. What would you want to talk about? What would you want to do?
Yeah, it'd probably be like, I'm torn. And part of me wants to like have a couple of brands. Like I would love to have a media company. So here's someone who's doing a great job of this right now. Like I'm just watching it in live time and I've watched it from before he did the media to when he started doing media for himself to when now he's creating like a media production company, which is called Valuetainment, which is Patrick Bet-David's company. So Patrick Bet-David Context was in business and he just sold for hundreds of millions of dollars his insurance company. And he started creating business content, probably 6, 7, 8 years. I don't even know when. And he built his own Valuetainment channel. And then that kind of morphed into like the Patrick Bet-David or the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet-David podcast, where they do a lot of like politics and like world commentary type of content. They have some really interesting polarizing guests on both sides of the aisle. But he still puts out like really interesting business content, like Zach, who was putting out The Untold, like really interesting stories about like, so PBD is doing like BlackRock, doing like a breakdown on BlackRock, or doing a breakdown like the Hunter Biden stuff, or doing a breakdown on, you know, this character or whatever. And he does a really good job of kind of blending like business and worldview and politics into like an ecosystem. And now he has a couple of interesting figures, if you will, in this little media company who are all doing like slightly different things. So he's got one guy who's like a former comedian, and now he does like, you know, cultural stuff. So he'll interview like influencers on TikTok. He'll interview like, you know, people from the manosphere or whatever. So it's really interesting. I would want to create that, like something that kind of just tackles all things, business, economics, politics, culture. And,
I love that.
And kind of go after that market. Yeah.
I would either one, be a loyal listener, or two, I'd be happy to be one of the minions running your little sideshows. That would be a lot of fun. So after you finish your acquisition of a company and then you eventually get acquired and you start this media brand, you know where I'm at. You hit me up. I'll be a co-host or something.
I want to have like a facility. So what I like about what he does is he has a whole building where they just do different shows. They have different sets and different
that's sweet,
you know, podcast areas. And so these shows are kind of like all run by the same media team, videographers, editors, etc. So you kind of have like the economies of scale there, but then you have like different areas for each person. And so you can actually he actually put an offer out for $100 million to have Tucker Carlson join Valuetainment. Obviously didn't work because Tucker has much bigger opportunities on the plate. But what's cool about it is he just has this. It's an appeal to people like, hey, come here. We've got all the things to help make you blow up. We've got advertisers. We've got media, you know, production people, et cetera. And so I would love to do something like that.
Big things on the horizon, man. Excited to watch it. For those of you listening, do something with what we're talking about. So go work on your mindset. Go do hard stuff. Go plan a masogi. Go figure out your cold calling list. Go figure out new dispositions for your calls, activated leads, how to target those, how to retarget those people. I don't know. Go build a Lumpy mail campaign. Go start your own media brand. Just go do something. I'm sick of people, myself included, consuming all the things and never doing anything. It's I critique myself about it. So go put this into action. We appreciate you giving us your time and attention, but I want it to return something for you. And the only way it returns something is if you actually put it into use. So again, thanks for your ears and your time. Joey, thank you for yours. Thanks for all your insights. And I'll see you when I get back from vacation, man. I'll see you back here in a few weeks for another episode of the Best Damn Agency Podcast. Until then, later.
Boom. Later.
Bro, who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believe me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah,